I had walked past that shop many. Flickers of curiosity had been quenched by apathy, worry, or distraction. Today, for some reason, I stopped. The sign outside stated in clear and daring letters, "The Great Exchange." My eyes traveled down to a notice underneath. "I want all your junk. Bring the worst that you have. In exchange, I will give you my life." It was such a strange concept. I had heard of the man who ran the shop inside. Some people said he was an imposter. Some people said he was crazy. Some people said he was a myth, that he didn't really exist. They said he had holes in his hands and scars on his body. Whoever he was surely a mystery. Maybe he was dangerous. And why did he want this junk anyway? Could it really be true? I mean, it sounded just too good to be true. There must be some sort of catch. If there was anything I had learned in life, it's that you can't trust anyone these days. Walking away, I dismissed this mystery pawn man from my mind. But in the days that followed, I just couldn't get that sign out of my mind. I felt restless, distracted. The burdens I carried seemed to become unbearable. I couldn't deny them and fill my mind with other thoughts, as was my usual practice. Somehow, they weighed heavier upon me and seemed even uglier and more repulsive. Waking up, I wondered, what really was the point to my life? What was this all about? Maybe I should just go in there and call his bluff. Maybe I should see what all the fuss was about. I started looking for my worst junk. Finding a suitable box in my storeroom, I filled it. Fear. Shame. Rejection. There, I said to myself, it can't get much worse than that. And I started on my way to that old pawn shop. I entered the shop to the sound of a ringing of a bell. To my surprise, I found myself in a small room filled from floor to ceiling with stacks of boxes. There was a queue of people inside. There were also other people in the shop who didn't seem to be in the queue. I noticed that everyone there, like myself, was carrying boxes. I saw a boy on the floor. He was rocking back and forth. Glancing over, I managed to catch the label on his box. Bitterness, it read. He was clutching the box so tightly, it didn't look like he wanted to let go. Why was he there, I wondered. My focus returned to the queue ahead of me. The man at the end of the line cried and stumbled out of the shop. He was lugging a massive suitcase behind him. As he heaved it behind him, I saw the label unforgiveness on it. Others in front of me were handing over their boxes. Some refused to give their boxes away. Suddenly, there I was, at the front of the queue. The man with the holes in his hands was standing in front of me. He was not like anyone I had ever seen before. There was a calm immovability about him. I felt certain in that moment that nothing ever panicked, frightened, or surprised him. His eyes, they were so deep. They seemed to see straight through me, and they felt so old, like they had seen everything that ever was. It was unnerving looking into those eyes. Yet strangely, I felt like this man saw me in a way no one ever had before. And then he spoke. "Have you come with your junk?" "Yes," I responded suspiciously, holding tighter onto my box. Suddenly, a panic arose in my throat. I couldn't give him my box. There was no point in giving it away. And giving it to him, wasn't I losing my identity? Who would I be without my junk? It was burdensome, ugly, and heavy, but yet it was all I knew. It was me. And how could I trust this man? What could he possibly give me in exchange for this? "I want to take your junk," he said. "In exchange for your fear, rejection, and shame, I will give you purpose. I will give you hope, and ultimately, fullness of life." That's too good to be true, I thought to myself. And anyway, I can't afford it. My junk didn't merit that, and I didn't have any money. As if reading my mind, he said, "It's a free exchange. All that I'm asking you is that you give me your box in totality. I want all of it. The items I'm giving you won't be effective if you hold on to your junk." I looked hungrily at the items on the shelves behind him. Joy, peace, identity, mission, acceptance were some of the labels. That's very kind of you, sir, I stuttered, but I can't afford it. Let me go and earn a few more savings. I'll come back with the money, and maybe you could give me some hope. Hopefully, in a few years, I'll have earned the purpose and maybe even eventually fullness of life. There's something else I should have mentioned. The man seemed unsurprised and unmoved by my ideas. "You can't buy these items. Even if you had all the money in the world, you could never afford them." "But how could you afford them?" The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. He was holding out his hand to me. I looked. There was indeed a hole in his hand. In fact, I noticed there were scars on his arm. This calm, immovable man had suffered great pain. I realized then he wanted me to give him my box. He actually wanted it. He wanted my junk. Almost outside of myself, I found myself unwrapping my grip from my box and slowly stepping towards his outstretched arm. He was looking into my eyes. "I paid for it with my life," he said. At that moment, I started sobbing. It was just too good to be true. Losing my burdens to this calm and kind man was already such a relief. I felt a lightness I had never experienced before, like I had been carrying a rucksack of heavy rocks and someone had just loosened the straps. And suddenly it was gone. My box had disappeared. I didn't know where it went, and suddenly I didn't care. Something was bubbling up inside me and tickling my throat. I realized then it was laughter. The man with the holes in his hands put his hands on my head. "My items don't come in a box," he said. "You won't have to carry them. They will live inside you. This is just the beginning. They are going to grow." I realized then he was smiling. It was the most wonderful smile I had ever seen. It was like a light came on in that shop. I can't quite remember leaving the shop. It was like I was floating on air. But in the days that follow, and as I reflected on my experience, I remembered something else he said to me. He wanted me to tell other people about my experience at the shop. He wanted me to tell other people about who he was, that the great exchange was real. I guess he knew that there were a lot of myths and rumors about him that weren't true. And he had tasked me with dispelling the lies. I suppose that people would believe me because I could tell them something I had experienced myself. I could explain to them what I had given up and show them what I had gained. One thing is sure, I'll never forget the first time in that shop. Since then, I've realized that there was other junk I was harboring that I could get rid of, that he was eager to take. I now know that there is an endless supply of good things that are so much better than the junk I have been carrying. I've met a few other people who have been through the great exchange. They're all hopelessly devoted to the man with the holes in his hands. I'm still working on convincing others to join me. I never saw myself in the advertising field, but I guess that was part of the purpose package that the man with the holes in his hands gave me. I think the saddest thing about visiting the shop is seeing the people who refuse to hand over their junk. The man with the holes in his hands never seems to lose patience with him. Every time I think back to my first time in the shop, I can only be grateful and make it my life's goal to tell other people the good news.